those three fires circulate through the atom along the spirillae that I've described and radiate energies outwards in what we call the rays, and we have a sentient living thing, the ultimate atom. Bring groups of them together and you get the elements, oxygen, hydrogen, iron, 100-odd elements, combinations of this ultimate atom. God is an all-consuming fire. And everything is maintained by this fiery output. This is the basis of what we call alchemy, Now, in case you may have been misled by my first observations, the various atoms, whether they're human or planetary or solar or ultimate, the various atoms have these spirillae. But not all the spirillae are activated. They have not all got fire passing through them. And in the human atom, the outermost spirals or spirillae, or the densest spirillae, are patent. But in our struggle for consciousness, we slowly bring fire into the subtlest of the spirillae. Go over that in a different way. The average personality is a human atom, and the physical spirillae are functioning, for he has a physical body. They are enlivened and maintained by fire. The etheric, the astral are functioning, and some of the mental spirillae are functioning in the average human atom. But the other orders of spirillae, which make him up, the spiritual spirillae, linked to Atma, Buddhi and Manas, are there, but they carry very little fire through them. And when we raise our consciousness by exercising Manas, which is the Kegate method, when we manifest Buddhi, or compassion, and qualities associated with the heart chakra and the center between the shoulder blades, we arouse another spirillae, and fire pours through it. All the atoms in your body, both in the human atom and in the ultimate atoms, more fire pours through them. The higher spirillae are enlivened. They were there all the time, but they are enlivened. More fire flows through them. So we are describing here today not only the origin and nature of form, but the origin and nature of consciousness. What makes the difference between savage and the saint, the brute and the Buddha? The difference is the flow of fire through that human atom, or through that atom. And all our disciplines, all our exercises are calculated to bring fire through the spiritual spirillae, so that more and more of our atoms take in fire to their monastic spirillae, into their buddhic spirillae, into their atomic spirillae. And by definition, a Christ or a Buddha is an entity whose atoms are fully activated. All the spirillae are functioning. And there are very, very few of these atoms in the planetary scheme that are fully activated. And when an avatar comes, or a Buddha, or a Manakaya, despite the hastening processes which are used for his manifestation, to a great extent he is dependent on the availability of activated, fully activated atoms, which he begins to draw into him. There is therefore a precious store of them in the planet. And cyclically and periodically, the store of spiritual atoms is drawn upon, and a Christ is able to manifest in physical form, or a Buddha in physical form, drawing on the store of precious atoms. So we have gone again, consciousness, comparing the mechanisms of the lowest order of human right up to the highest. And we have seen that spiritual capacity is greatly dictated by the quality of atoms and the degree to which their spirillae are activated. And meditation is a process of activating spirillae. The process of activating spirillae. And it is a process that activates three orders of spirillae: the atomic, the buddhic, and the monastic. We understand that the spirillae making up the physical body, atoms of the physical body, the astral and the mental, must not hog everything. And whilst they are blatantly conscious, they take the lion's share of inthrust into the human atom. And only when we can shut them down in consciousness can the fire be diverted into walling out, pushing out the spirillae of the spiritual orders. But you may have thought that was a bit tough going today. Never mind. We are now able to reap the reward of that. We're able to reap the reward of it. We can begin to look at the way in which our planet was formed. Look at the way in which our planet was formed. If I now said that a torrent of spiraling fire is at the basis of it, and that the planet is then able to form inside such a thrust, it would not be hard for you to conceive of. It would not be hard now to conceive of. Whether you're creating a thought form, whether it's a planet or a solar system, principles are the same. Now we can switch completely and go from the outside inwards. The outside inwards. Having established that the inwards is the motivating factor, we can now put that aside and go from the tangible or the objective to the less objective. And we can talk about our globe, which we call the Earth, and which has got its continents and so on. We can look at it and we can say that it's in its fourth round, and that therefore a wave of the life force has thrust its way through the Earth. We're talking about the present Earth. We can call that the first round. First round. And immediately we can say first round, oh yeah, right, that's first rate. You'll be right. You'll be right. You'll be using occult methods. You would be saying the first round relates us to the first ray of will and power, the great ray builder. Yes, first round. Here's our planet Earth. So we're looking now at the Earth chain. The Earth chain. We're looking at the fourth globe of the Earth chain. Instead of fourth, we prefer to use globe D, A, B, C, D. The fourth globe of the Earth chain. Which is a tangible globe, which has gas on it, liquids, solids, ions, and so on. But it suggests that there are other globes. And the fact that we have put it right at the bottom indicates it's the most material of the globes, and it is. The chances are 1,000 to 1 that there are 7 globes, because that's the way our solar system is built in sevens. It's a septenary solar system. So we talk about 7 globes lying at the basis of the Earth chain. The Earth chain. Therefore, we must conceive of other globes. And if we chase matter backwards towards its other ego, towards its other pole, the next state of matter that we come into is, of course, the etheric. The etheric. We talk about an etheric matrix of the Earth. We talk about an etheric matrix of the Earth. Etheric matrix of the Earth. Immediately, in order to understand this, we go to our own bodies. Yes, we've got a physical body made of gas, liquid, and solid. We have an etheric body. So this is the etheric body of the Earth. Therefore, our next concept is not difficult, that there is a living entity ensouled in this chain. There is a chain logos. A chain logos. And this is a manifestation of him. It's an incarnation of his. He's incarnating into a physical body. And like us, he has been through stages in which he has begun to get together a mental sheath, an astral sheath, an etheric sheath, and a physical body. Of course, the first time most of you heard me was giving such a talk. So we have globe C. Globe C. And it is etherico-physical. Let's call this the gas, liquid, and solid, and let's say that this is the 4 higher subplanes of the etheric. There are the 3 lower subplanes, which we call the purely physical. Yes. And everything that exists in the world has got its etheric counterpart. Everything that exists in the world has its etheric counterpart. In fact, the world, the globe that we know lovingly as the 4th globe, tangible, is the result of a matrix of etheric substance which was created long before it. This is a latecomer compared to this one. Yes, so we're using the occult technique again to look at this prospect of the earth chain, a consciousness ensouled in a physical body, the globe deal called the earth. We then know that some stage or the other, his consciousness was centered on his mental sheath, which was globe A, a mental sheath, globe A. Then he took on an astral sheath, which we're going to call globe B, so on. And that's the way in which he activates these various globes, and we haven't finished, is by impulses of the life force. Impulses of the life force. We call them rounds. So the first round, and the first round then changes into the second round. And here it comes sweeping around through the globes, and this is the second round. Second round of the life force. Therefore, it has second-rate qualities. Second-rate qualities. You would like to suggest some of these second-rate qualities that might have influenced the earth. Well, the second round would have given the earth cohesiveness. It would help to have helped the various forms, organisms, to form groups and species, to become associated with each other. The animal kingdom to develop more cohesiveness. The forms would tend to have been petite. They would tend to have been petite. The manifestations of things like mother love would have been accentuated during that particular round. And this we draw from our knowledge of the rays. All right, you can have a break now. From the information we've already had, see that there would be an inter-round pralaya here. An inter-round pralaya. Between the first round and the second round, an inter-round pralaya. The effect of the life waves is to nourish the egg of the earth, is to nourish the growing embryo of the earth. Of course, we chose this drawing, the occult glossary, for this expressive reason. It shows that the earth has been entwined by 4 spirals of the light wave, symbolized by the snake. The snake as the symbol of fire, you've heard me say that many times, warms and nourishes the planet Earth at its physical level. Now that is also true of a man. The human atom is nourished by fire, and extensions of consciousness are through fire. The application of the fire of initiation, when extra-systemic force is applied to the 7 head centers, which are the centers of consciousness representing what we would call the 7 rounds. There is no picture in any of the college works that is not symbolic and expressive of many meanings, because they all come from a single teaching. They are all relevant to each other and interrelated. So we've seen the sweep of the 2nd round, and we can understand then that this may represent a period in this Logos's life, a period of objective activity, a period of objective activity, when his life forces sweep through the vehicle of prana, the physical body, and on to the next globes. During this period, it's a subjective experience for him. This may be regarded as psychopompia. This may be regarded as hypnagogia. After a manifestation of a waking, objective experience in the 4th round, there would come a period of withdrawal from objectivity into the etheric, astral, and mental planes. No longer objective, but more subjective. So we could take a sweep of the 3rd round, pralaya, into round pralaya, and then the 3rd round manifests. Who has noticed the colours of the chalks? Yes, they are indicative of the rays of the round. The red plain coloured ray for the 1st ray, the indigo colour for the 2nd ray, and the green colour for the 3rd ray. And the 3rd round would bring 3rd ray qualities to the earth. We would find that the animal kingdom would be greatly stimulated by the 3rd round, it being the 3rd kingdom. The 3rd kingdom stimulated in the 3rd round. This would be a period in which emphasis of shape is upon gigantic structures. Gigantic structures, brontosaurus type of animals. Not the petite qualities of the 2nd round, but the expansive qualities of the 3rd round, expansive in terms of shape and form. The great disk that we have on display here, really a helix, shows time stretched out 5,000 million years. 5,000 million years. Beginning with Earth globe A and unwinding itself successively from 5 billion years ago to 4 billion years ago to 3 to 2 to 1 and up again to the present. So this is really a long line in terms of time, a linear device in terms of time, rolled up for convenience into a spiral or a helix. Yes. Now, at this stage, what we are trying to do is to point out that there are rounds involved. And so we say, here is the first round, occupying about 1 billion years. 3.4, all right, 3.7, 4, well, I just can't bother to subtract. But there is the first round. And then a period of recession, of obscuration, and inter-round pralaya, and then the beginning of a new impetus. The first cells form on the earth. And then the second round begins there. Here you have, first round begins. Where are we? I'm lost here. All right. We're really, where I'm lost is that we have the moon factor here as well. So we have the first round begins here, and it lasts way around until here. The second round begins, and all the time we're noting the position of man. We're not describing this at the moment. I merely want to point out that periodically you have got the rounds. Second round here, and all the way around, an inter-round pralaya extends from about there to here, and then the third round begins, and a tremendous flourish of new forms, and a sort of pralaya there. A fourth round begins here, and so on. So these are the sweeps of the Logos's consciousness through his body, through his bodies of manifestation. Now, having described these four globes, or having looked at them, we can see that globe A represents the formation of a mental sheath. By that we mean that human mental forms, humans who have not yet got astral or physical bodies, begin to assemble on globe A. They interact with mental devas. They elaborate their own form and something of the environment about them. They begin to form a mental globe. Globe A represents the first formation of a mental globe, which is hardly a globe, it's really a sheath. A globe is much more definitive, defined, and has more sharpness to it than a sheath. This is the counterpart of a soul beginning to activate the mental sheath before it hovers over the embryo in a man's incarnation. So globe A is mental. Globe A is mental, and if your wits are about you, you're going to see then that globe F is going to be mental as well. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Globe H is going to be mental. Globe B is going to be astral. Globe C is going to be etherico-physical. Globe E will be the same. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The point being made here is that these are planes of manifestation. Planes of manifestation. Nobody ever draws these things. You usually have charts which are all laid out nicely and cut and dried, but they don't tell the story as well as if you build up the whole thing. When you leave here today, there's no doubt in your mind that here is a high entity, a cosmic entity, using a chain as his vehicle of expression. He begins to incarnate and takes on a mental sheath, elaborates an astral sheath. This hovers over the etheric embryo, of the planet, and then into the vortex of these three there is deposited the physical substance of the earth. The physical substance of the earth. And here you have the formation of the earth. Here is the mental part of the earth forming. Here is the astral part of the earth forming. Here is the etheric matrix of the earth forming. And into the combination of these three, there is deposited the physical dust. The dust of the solar system begins to pour into this vortex, created firstly in mental substance, then in astral substance, then in etheric substance, and finally the etheric draws the dust of the solar disk into it, and we get the materialization of the earth, and the first round begins. All right. Now, having laid these out and shown that there is a passage of the life force through them, we should then say to ourselves, well, are they really spread out? Do they lie far from each other? It's my opinion that they are interpenetrated by each other. It's my opinion that they are interpenetrated by each other. That globe D is interpenetrated by globe C. Globe C and D are interpenetrated by globe B. That all these are interpenetrated by the mental globe A. That these interpenetrate each other, making a composite personality, as it were. It means that constantly the earth is drawing on energies from its globes A and B and C constantly. We as individuals draw on our astral material. If we want to have unlimited energy, we become emotionally involved. That's good for most people. If you're emotionally involved in a project, you have links with your astral body and with the astral plane, and the astral body feeds you energy. And so these globes constantly feed globe D. More than that, Madame Blavatsky said that the globe D acts as a vampire. It's drawing the energy out of the earlier globes. We are vampirizing them just as we are vampirizing the earlier chain. The earth chain had an earlier chain, and that was called the moon chain. And we are vampirizing the moon and the moon chain. Come to that some other time. Now look at the position of globe E, F, and G. E, F, and G. What are these? These are the globes that the advanced beings of humanity are creating at this very moment. You and me. Vortices are being developed, powerful vortices, in the etheric, emotional, and mental planes of the solar system, which draw off from the earth the advanced feelings, dream images that you and I have on this planet. We are creating the globe, or the globes ahead of us, that we will one day inhabit. We are creating the globes that we will one day inhabit. Many etheric forms of an unusual nature are being created by man. Man, supported and helped by the Devas, is elaborating things quite separate from the matrix in which he was brought up. He is interfering with the genetics of the plants and the animal kingdom. He is creating new forms. And the etheric essences and the astral and mental essences of these new forms take another new form, like the new township of Stevenage or the new township of Hatfield. A new form. Architects coming out of the last World War want to create something different. Subsidiary towns. Take the pressure of population out of London. Let's create new cities. Nothing to do with the matrix of the earth. Nothing to do with the old globes. Man is fashioning. He's using willy-nilly the laws of nature and sometimes abusing them, but he is creating the materials of new globes. And these are embodied in globe E, F, and G. Now the implications here are enormous, because those of mankind who are created mentally, like the architects, those of mankind who are created emotionally, like new artists or new artistic forms and the artistic creators of them, new drama, impressionism, all these new forms which man is elaborating on his own find their way to the nucleus of the new globes that lie ahead of us in evolution. And a fourth round will activate art forms and give them an opportunity to regenerate. And mankind itself is affected by a fourth round because it's on the same ray. And we say that if we could create at this time groups who could meditate together on the planet, that these groups, and we're going to do it at full moon, that these full moon groups can create structures in these new globes which will be such of an advanced order that when the life wave passes from the earth to the next globe, structures there will be activated and will develop in evolution on their own. And we, of course, will inhabit these globes. The time will come when life on the earth will be obscured. The planet will not be able to hold human life. It will then be a period in which many forms, animal, plant, human, will not be able to reach physical expression. They will only be able to come down as far as the etheric. And then their day will be on globe E. Their day will be on globe E. Until the life wave comes round again to physical expression. This needs thinking out, of course. All these subjects need thinking out. So we're talking about globe E. And as man elaborates new forms on the earth, he is producing, interpenetrating the earth at a different vibration, globe E. So that eventually when the physical globe goes into obscuration, life will be centered on the etheric globe E. When we talk about life on Venus or life on Mars, we're talking about life on interpenetrating globes, not necessarily physical, of course. You try and explain this to science, they only say, oh, you're trying to get out of it. But we're not. We've taught that for many centuries. And so, again, emotionally, the clearing up of man's emotional nature, the development of new art forms, helps to create, at this very moment, a new globe, globe F, and of course, a mental globe as well. So all these globes exist, but you shouldn't think of them in terms of one of them being 80,000 miles away from the Earth, and then the next one being 300,000 miles away, and the next one being forming a great big ring with the Earth as the central point, or the densest point. Don't think of it like that. Rather think of them as being interpenetrating. Perhaps I can make this a little easier for you. If you take up my discussion on a moment of perception. If we took a moment of perception as being a 70-year period, and we looked with one moment of perception at an oak tree, we could see the acorn, we could see the sapling, or the seedling, then the sapling, and then the young tree, and then the fully grown oak, and then the old gnarled oak, and then after a forest fire it burnt out long. All part of the same structure, seen at one glance, so that we are seeing it as time multiplied by space. A period of 70 years times the space involved. And if we could look at this object with a moment of perception, which is what a master possesses, higher beings possess greater moments of perception. They could look at a man and they could see his earlier life and possibly something of previous lives, depending on the degree of the initiation of the individual, and something of his future. The moment of perception being enlarged. The moment of perception of a human being is a tenth of a second. You and I look at objects, and we can decide what they are in about a tenth of a second. Higher beings can look at objects with a greater moment of perception, as it were. Now, let's put in here globe D. There's globe D. And we can put in the other globes accordingly. We can say here's globe C, and then globe E. And what we're looking at then is a moment of perception, like that. And you're seeing the expression of one round going right through 7 globes, one round going right through 7 globes. It may appear to be a little abstract, but I'm sure you're getting the meaning of it. So we see then, we've seen today, the manifestation of a cosmic entity incarnated, his consciousness incarnated, or rather his soul, as it were, incarnated in the earth chain, the earth chain. But don't forget, before I leave you, don't forget that the earth chain, here it is, that the earth chain is the personality of that individual, but there is an inner round, an inner round. And these are globes that manifest in Atma, in Buddhi, and in Manas. Globes that manifest in Atma, Buddhi, and Manas. And the totality of the individual is that. The totality of the individual is that. And many immensely spiritual beings associated with our planetary chain move in this way, around here, not taking a physical body on at all, or even taking this sort of activity, short-circuiting, not taking a physical body, too spiritual to be able to maintain the physical body, except under special circumstances, like in a Manichaea. When the Manichaea enters a cycle of descent, he may come down here and attach to himself a personality as he passes in figuratively speaking, closer proximity to the Earth globe. Always when we go into such subjects, we start off at the simple and we end up at mind-boggling concepts. Mind-boggling concepts. But that, of course, is what occult study is all about. And the endeavor on the part of the teacher is not to confuse you, not to try and gain your admiration, but merely to extend your consciousness so that the spirillae of the atoms that make up your form can be flooded with fire. By spirillae I mean spirillae of the higher orders. We'll have some questions.